1 and then 10 to 20. The vision of Isaiah, son of Amos, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. Hear the word of the Lord, you rulers of Sodom. Listen to the teaching of our God, you people of Gomorrah. What to me is the multitude of your sacrifices, says the Lord. I've had enough of burnt offerings of rams and the fat of fat beasts. I do not delight in the blood of bulls or of lambs or of goats. When you come to appear before me, who asked this from your hand? Trample my courts no more. Bringing offerings is futile. Incense is an abomination to me. New moon and Sabbath and calling of convocation. I cannot endure solemn assemblies with iniquity. Your new moons and your appointed festivals my soul hates. They have become a burden to me. I am weary of bearing them. When you stretch out your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. Even though you make many prayers, I will not listen. Your hands are full of blood. Wash yourselves. Make yourselves clean. Remove the evil of your doings from before my eyes. Cease to do evil. Learn to do good. Seek justice. Rescue the oppressed. Defend the orphan. Plead for the widow. Come now. Let us argue it out, says the Lord. Though your sins are like scarlet, they shall be like snow. Though they are red like crimson, they shall become like wool. If you're willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land, but if you refuse and rebel, you shall be devoured by the sword, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. One day more, another day, another destiny. This never-ending road to Calvary. These men who seem to know my crime will surely come a second time. One day more. Those words, one day more. I've heard the theme sung, the tracks to Les Mis so many times, and it was so obvious. It was right there, and obviously that's what the composer meant, but it took a while, and I thought, wow, one day more. It means something so much different to each individual, each character. Right? One day more. Jean Valjean, a man who had turned from crime to good, 24601 was his number. That's who was known as a prisoner. Right? But he changed his ways, became a good man. He adopted Cosette, took her on as his own child, becomes mayor of this town, helps the poor, does everything that the definition of a good man epitomizes. But yet, Javert was still always following on his tail. All these people who knew his past life, his past crimes, were always after him, trying to bring him back down because they had labeled him as a criminal, even though, in reality, he was a good man. One day more for him was running for his life, hoping that he would be able to live to see his daughter grow up, and then pleading for the man that she fell in love with, so that he wouldn't have to die either, whether it be in the revolution or at the hands of those who were against freedom and liberation. One day more to live in fear, but yet to have hope. One day more for Marius and Cosette was love. One day more to get you to know you better, to get to feel you more deeply, to get to understand you and peer into your soul and know the very depths of you. One day more to understand what love really feels like. To say that we have searched for this love and we finally have found it. And this is worth living for. One day more to love you. That's what one day more was for those two. But for Eponine, it was a dagger in her heart, she said. One day more watching Marius, the man she loved, be with a woman that she respected, Cosette, but it wasn't with her. Right? It was her loneliness that she felt draped over her. This desire sometimes just to die. And so when that day came that she was shot on the battlefield, taking a letter from Cosette to Eponine, and as she's dying in Marius' arms, she says, a little fall of rain cannot hurt me now, because I'm dying in your arms, and this, sleep in your embrace at last, is what I have dreamed of. One day more, to feel the loneliness and the pain of not having someone that you love, but the guarantee being gone. For after that, there was no extra day. One day more for Gavosh, the little boy who sang and kind of had a spiky, spunky little attitude, and sometimes would pick pockets and do this to people and then run off and go hide in the little crevasses where big people couldn't get into. But little did he know that one day more was not guaranteed for him either. One day more to be young, one day more to be innocent, one day more to have youth and hope for a brighter future, but that was taken from him when he too was shot at the barricades and killed. One day more for Javert. Javert, who was always in hot pursuit of Jean Valjean, who always wanted nothing more but to capture this man because he knew this man was pretending to be good. He pulled the wool over everybody's eyes. They thought he was a good guy. They thought he was doing wonderful things for people. They thought he had compassion and love and kindness for humankind. But Javert knew better. Javert knew who this man really was. He was a criminal. He was a thief. He had a dark soul. And he was going to show everybody. He was going to capture him and put him back in jail where he belonged. Because that is where 2461 belongs, not out with the rest of the people. Until it came time that Jean Valjean and Javert struggled, and Valjean could have easily killed Javert. And he didn't. He said, just go and leave. If you want to come back and get me, that's fine, but wait until I make sure that my daughter is safe. Something deep within Javert broke. Because he realized in that moment that he was wrong. All those perceptions, all those preconceived notions that he had about Jean Valjean, they were wrong. Everything that he thought about the revolution was wrong. Everything at the core of his being, the person who he thought he was, because he knew what was right and what was wrong, who were the good guys and who were the bad guys. He knew until he didn't know anymore. And all of a sudden, everything changed. Everything turned. He went from singing these songs about these little schoolboys who will wet themselves with blood, to this feeling of who is this man? He could have killed me, but instead he's giving back my life. And does he know that in giving back my life, this man has killed me even so? And it was too much for Javert to bear, and so he flung himself off the top of the dam into the reservoir. Took his life because everything that he had lived for, everything that he had devoted his time and energy and being to, was all based on a bunch of misconceptions, some wrong ideas, some thoughts about people that weren't right. But unfortunately for him, he couldn't just change those and go on with his life, because it had shattered him way, way too much. So when we look at this passage, and when we see God saying, I don't want your incense anymore, it rises up and it's a stench in my nostrils. Your words of prayer and praise make my ears hurt. Playing your drums and your music and worship of me, I don't want to hear it anymore. It makes me sick in my stomach. I don't like the idea of an angry God. It just somehow goes against what I think is the very nature of God. But perhaps sometimes we do have to personify God. Right? Sometimes we do have to think of God as angry, or at the very least, as hurt. To look upon creation and see everything that's happening. And so God says, don't waste your time praying to me and thanking me and acting like you are good and pious when your hands are full of blood. Don't pretend that you're a good person because you go to church and say the right words, when you step out of my doors, you're saying words that tear down the very people who I have built up. Don't give me your nonsense. Show me how to treat people. Because I've already showed you. I've already put it on your heart that you should treat people with love. But are you doing this? When you finally learn that, then you can come back to me with your bowls and your incense. Then you can make your offerings and your sacrifices to me, because then I will know that you mean it within your hearts. But right now your hearts are dirty. You don't mean it. You don't mean it at all. And so God tells everybody to wash themselves, cease to do evil, learn to do good, to seek justice, to defend and rescue the oppressed, to defend the orphan, to plead for the widow. We walk down the street, and just like Javert looking at everybody and having all these misconceptions about Valjean and all of those who are for the revolution, we see these people and we say, well, you idiot, you put yourself in poverty. Go get a job. Quit being lazy. This systematic process of you making bad decisions in your life is what got you where you're at. This is your fault. Or it's because of your race, or it's because of your beliefs, or whatever the case may be. When we see the orphan, what do we think? Oh, this snot-nosed brat. Maybe. Maybe we look at this kid and say, oh, how cute, how lucky, this kid's in the orphanage and getting everything that he needs. He's getting 3 meals a day. They buy him toys once in a while. It can't be all that bad. Except for the fact that he can't get that dream out of his head from the day his parents walked away and left them on the street corner, or when the fire took everything, including everybody that he loved. We can't see that. We can't see that from the outside, so we don't have the right to make these ideas and these judgments and these conceptions of who this person is, their who-ness, their being. When we look at the widow, oh, well, yeah, okay, your husband died, but you got one heck of an inheritance and you're living high on the hog, but for you, looks like you're doing just fine. Except you can't see that rip in her soul where her best friend and partner, the person that she could tell her innermost secrets and dreams to, is missing now because he's gone. She doesn't have him to wake up to in the morning, to have coffee with, to laugh, to have conversations with. You can't see that. What about the oppressed? Well, you contributed to this. You chose to join this gang. You chose to do this, that, or the other that got you where you're at. This is all your fault. Yes. Yes, we have agency. We have ownership over our own choices of what we do. But it's not all about that. There's so much more written deeper in the story that we cannot possibly see. As we peer into their eyes and try to see into their soul, we can't grasp what that person's experience, what that person is going through, and we can't even try. We are called to be compassionate. We are called to be empathetic to the best of our ability, but we also have to realize that we can never, just by walking in the shoes of another, right? Walking a mile in their moccasins, as they say. We can never fully grasp or comprehend the experiences that this person has had or the impression that it has left on their heart, so we cannot look at them and we cannot judge them. What we can do is walk beside them. And when they need it, to carry them. At their moment of greatest need, to reach down and lift them up, not because we're better than them, not because we're here and they're down there, but because God has given us the strength to do so. Because God is using us in that moment, being the strength they need. That is our call, not to judge. So when we see this passage about treating people in certain ways, and we hear these sayings about people will never change, right? People are the same, they're never going to change, things aren't going to get any different. We keep hearing them. Those are the first words on the highway to hell. People will never change. Well, how hopeful is that? The minute we start to believe that is when all hope is gone. It's the belief that people can change. It's the belief that people can different that gives us hope. Not only are the people that we look at different than what we perceive them to be, but we ourselves, as we grow, as we age, as we continue on the journey of life, aren't we different today than we were 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Probably the people that are our very best friends today are the people that we couldn't stand 10 years ago. That's true in a lot of ways for me. Right? People that I hang out with today, back then I would have said, there's a bunch of heretics, and I'm like, y'all are pretty cool. Welcome to the club. But that's how it is for all of us. And we need to keep that realization that I will not be the same person tomorrow that I am today. So keep the door open. Don't burn your bridges, because you never know. You may need that person that you just spit on. It's fear. It's fear of the unknown. It's fear of people who don't look like us, who don't sound like us, who don't say the same things that we say. It's fear. And that's why Jesus says, do not be afraid. Have no fear. Don't look at each other and be scared because we look different. But see people the way that I see people, so that you can understand what it means to be made in the image of God. Because that won't change. That imprint, no matter what's happening out here, that imprint is still always going to be there. Always going to be written on the heart. And we must never forget that. And we must have hope. And we must stand up proud and tall and tell everybody, people can change. People will change. And we will show you how. One day more. Let's take that one day, guaranteed or not, and make it a better one. For us, and for our children. Amen. So now, it wouldn't be right to sit there and talk about that song so much and not actually play it.